Hey guys, welcome to another Hall of Fame. We have Pradeep, who has a fascinating background. He's done his undergrad at JNTU ECE, so that's extremely coveted. So he's cream de la cream, and then he's followed that with a master's at BITS Pilani, and he's had the good fortune of working for a lot of Fortune 500 companies, AMD, Broadcom, etc. And he spent close to a decade and a year, so 11, 12 years at
Right.
Qualcomm. And so he's in the mid-level to senior manager space. He's extremely hands-on on AI. So thank you so much for joining us. Without further ado, I would love for you to sort of tell your journey so far, how your interests have evolved over time, etc. Thank you again, once again, for coming onto this.
Hi, Jay. Good morning. And thanks for having me over on this platform. I'm really glad to be here. So, yeah, as you have actually gone through my profile, right? So, I did my BTech from the JNT University campus, Kokatpalli. ECE was what was recommended by our seniors, and in hindsight, I would say that was a good choice. Okay, and I got into Philips through campus selection right after BTech, and then Philips became NXP Semiconductor. So until I got married, I was with NXP Bangalore. Then after marriage, I moved to Hyderabad, and there I was with AMD and Broadcom. So in all these companies, I was predominantly working on the digital TV and set-top box products. I was mostly into the HDMI and the video featuring kind of areas, especially on the driver side and the middleware side. And then I joined Qualcomm like close to 12 years ago, and mostly into multimedia. I have spent my time on Linux audio drivers, then display. Then in multimedia, I had the opportunity to work on the multimedia software architecture, power performance aspects of multimedia. Then I moved to the system level power analysis, where again I had the opportunity to work on mobile, IoT, XR, AR, and VR products. So all these things. Yeah, I was fortunate to cover a wide spectrum in my current organization. And then, for the past 2-3 years, I have been with the AI software team in Qualcomm Hyderabad. Currently, I lead the technology activities here, which means all the accelerator runtime, CPU, GPU, DSP, the performance aspects, power, thermal, benchmarks. We work on all these aspects, and we predominantly work on the mobile edge inferencing solutions, okay, which are basically driven on the Qualcomm Snapdragon and other chipsets. Yeah, that's briefly what I have gone through my education and my career. And while I was doing my work in Qualcomm, I also had the opportunity to pursue my master's with BITS, which I did a few years ago. That's how the journey has been so far.
Awesome. I'm actually bustling at to ask you so many questions because it's like it's a wide sort of diaspora of like, I would say experiences and obviously again good fortune of making mistakes. Your petri dish, your labs. You must have done so much. That's phenomenal. So, but I do want to cover the usual questions first, and then we'll get to those other questions that I've
Sure.
made on. So just wanted to spotlight on why you took the course. So let's rewind back, and the theme would be like pre-course, course, and post-course. So if you can, take a time capsule and go back in time and say, okay, 6 months before you took the course, what made you, or what was your mindset like leading up to that moment when you just actually, said, okay, take action. I'm going to purchase this course. I'm going to sit, and make all my sacrifices because the courses are intense. These AI machine learning courses are intense. So what was your mindset there, and what are the trigger points, if you can recall? Meaning, again, was it a seminar you saw, or you were evaluating, upskilling programs, or just wanted to do it? So talk us about that phase.
Okay. So I should say there were two primary reasons that actually made me pursue this course 2-3 years ago. One was the fear of unknown, because machine learning, AI, everything was coming up. Okay, and almost everybody had the idea that okay, it is going to impact. Okay, huge, but how? Okay, how and why? And the thing is, the more it remains to be an unknown, the more you will feel uncomfortable about it. Okay, so that was one thing. And second thing is, yes, I have been working on all the areas that I have been that I have just shared with you, right? So I also wanted to pick one area, one upcoming area where I can have some impact. Okay, so AI and ML actually sort of uh, tick mark both the checkbox items, and there were some of my seniors who were pursuing the course in the previous batch, and I always had the fortune. Of course, these are COVID times. Now we don't have that fortune, but at that time, the lunch meetings, right, and the lunch table discussions were really productive. And most of my lunch mates were my senior colleagues who had gone through the course in the previous batch, Lakshman, Venkat, all these gentlemen. So it sort of actually made me okay think in that direction and give a good shot at it, because anything that I am not completely clear of, that makes me feel a bit restless. So I thought, okay, let's understand it a bit more and see what we can do about it. That was the primary driving factor, I would say.
No, I think that's really good because I remember I only worked for two actually companies. I don't know if internship counts. So KPMG and American Express. I remember some of these companies have really good culture in that the coffee conversations, the water, drinking water, like those corridor conversations are pretty high quality, and you tend to get inspired. Sometimes actually
Right.
that's better than the day job. So yeah, I totally get that piece. So just want to talk about the resistances. So, when before all of us, I think all of us know that logically we're human beings and we're extremely rational, but I think most purchase decisions are also emotional. What are the resistances going on? So there's two things, right? Meaning, let's say there's a resistance and a perceived resistance. Let's say you say you're weak at math, or it's been 10, 20 years since the program. So what were those kind of resistance in your head? And now you have again a good tenure, 2 3 years. You're saying, okay, being good at math is really not important, etc. That is the first question. Second question is, just before the course, did you do some pre-work? Like, did you look at some free course, obviously on YouTube, and we have all the big Coursera, etc. Did you actually do something? You struggled and you failed? Was there something, or you just came in and started swimming? Just want to talk about these two questions.
Yeah, so I did actually go through some of the open source videos which have been there, which are still there on YouTube. Really nice ones.
Yeah.
And I also signed up for one of the Coursera courses. Okay, because it's like the standard default, right? That everybody gets introduced to. That actually gave me some kind of introduction. Uh, and regarding the course, right? When we were signing up, we knew what we are getting into. And at that time, my daughter was like 4 to 5 years old, and my wife is a working mom. Okay, so obviously they need support. I also live with my parents just like you do. so uh, so I mean,
Yeah, I'm only
weekends
living
are
on weekends. People who are watching this, I'm only living on weekends. Okay.
so I and generally weekends are tough.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to take care of all those things that you have ignored over the weekdays, right? So it certainly required some planning, but uh, I was looking at it as okay, this is like 3 to 4 months, and which can have a huge impact, right? Going by the two reasons that I have explained, right? So I
Yeah.
thought it's worth the effort. So I convinced my wife that okay, just forget about me for 3 4 months for the weekends, and yeah, and I will make up for it. That's the kind of arrangement I had. And Yeah, anybody trying to get into machine learning, right? These things, the multivariate calculus, linear algebra, probability and statistics, general perception is that you need to be really good at it, right? To get most out of it. So that has always been one factor which maybe like pulls you back a bit. But you talk to more folks that have gone through the course, or folks in other organizations which who are already into this kind of domain, right? How exactly they have been going through it. And in hindsight now, I can clearly say that not everybody that is working in applied AI, right, knows anything beyond the chains rule or the Bayes theorem, right? So those are the basic things which you can understand, because most of us have gone through similar basics during our bachelor's or whatever. Of course, maybe close to 2 decades ago, but still, it's something that you have gone through. You cleared the exam, right, at some point of time. So it's not something that you cannot do.
Yeah.
Only thing is, you need to understand what is really essential. Okay. And here, the 80-20 rule, that's what actually kept me going even during the course, right? The course content is huge. Again, the reference links, right? Nice blog pages, everything. You want to go through all of them while doing your job, right? And while also taking care of your family. May not be practical throughout, but at least focus on that 80-20 rule, so
Yeah.
that you get most most of the knowledge that keeps you going through the course, right? And it's not like a sprint, right? Right after the course, you are not going to shut it down. That's the window which you can use
Yeah.
to actually pick the missed concepts
Yeah.
or the extended concepts. That was the plan. So with this mindset, I could actually prepare myself to sign up for the course, and being part of the organization that actually encourages this kind of exploration,
Yeah.
yeah, it was relatively easier for me to get a slot in the batch.
Wow, that's actually pretty good. Actually, I like the one piece you said, the Pareto rule, the 80-20, that 80% of concepts are, the juice is in the 20% of the things. Uh, and conversely, right? 20%
Right.
accounts for 80% of everything. But the thing that most people miss out is that it requires maturity and judgment to pick the 20% concept. You have to say no to 80 things to get to those 20 things. Actually, I struggle with that. So whatever I'm familiar with, it's fairly easy. I have that speed, velocity, or whatever I'm unfamiliar. For instance, I'm picking up like digital marketing right now. It's kind of very difficult for me to also say no, 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 80 times. For instance, Facebook marketing, Google marketing. And I digress because a lot of people don't know have that maturity. So it's something you're being kind of very extremely modest about. A lot of people get lost in the shiny objects. And nowadays it's all supercomputers powered. So you just click one YouTube link, you go somewhere else, so on and so forth. Right? So it requires discipline. Ultimately, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
and first few weeks, yeah, you will struggle to identify what exactly is that 80% and 20%, but
Yeah,
that's where a bit of prep work really helps you. The
yeah,
course also offered some kind of prep work,
yes,
right? And also, man, you have so much abundance of open source knowledge freely available.
yeah,
Just understand a bit about what exactly is the agenda of the course, right?
yeah,
The curriculum, and 2 to 3 weeks into it, you'll start getting a decent idea of, okay, how
yeah.
to plan your journey.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's actually pretty smart. That's actually pretty mature. Do some little bit of pre-work, like come into
Right.
it like a proper, like a whatever marathon. Like as in you have to do the push-ups and the run, the
You
leg.
are in it for the marathon, not for the
Correct,
sprint. So
correct, correct.
just
Right.
pace it accordingly.
Otherwise, you'll get body pains and you'll suffer. Right? Perfect. So you've
Right.
covered. I think you've covered both the resistances to a certain degree and the sacrifices.
Yeah, by the way, the thing is, as I said, right, even my wife is a working mom. So uh, obviously, she would depend on me to have her break. right, over the weekends. And also 3 to 4 months, honestly speaking, it's a bit too long. And sometimes, see, I am in an industry where the customer product launches and our own releases to the customers are extremely critical
Yeah.
with respect to timeline. So you can plan all your hours well in advance, but sometimes something comes which can actually disturb everything. Okay, you need to be prepared for it, and that's the challenge, and that's the fun of being part of such an industry, I would say. So there were instances wherein I was attending the class in the morning, okay, and I had to rush to our office lab to attend to some critical debug activity during the practice lab, okay, and then come back for the graded lab session, finish it with the
Oh,
badge, and then
yeah.
go back to the office lab. I mean, these things keep happening. What really keeps you going is the batch, the lab batch that you are part of, and also the support from family.
Correct.
So to compensate for uh, what I was actually depriving the family of over the weekends, I used to take half day leaves post lunch on weekdays, and for example, take wife to a feel good movie starring her favorite hero,
Nice.
right, right, and thereby just keep things balanced so that you don't want any family member stressed out because of what you are doing,
Fair enough, fair enough.
and you also don't want to be stressed out yourself. So just plan well in advance as much as possible.
I
And
can
by
see.
the way, we
I
had this Thursday morning, was it Thursday morning? So the test deadlines, right?
yeah.
And you want to do a good job at it, right? So a bit of planning goes a long way. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I can sense some meticulous planning, like Qualcomm design, like a chip design. You've actually laid out in that. Actually, contrary to perception, a lot of people underrate planning. Like they don't even have a 3 month, 6 month plan. And I'm beginning to realize that any upskilling, first off, upskilling is required for anybody in tech. Uh, it's not like I would say like for instance MBBS, like lawyers, etc. They don't have to like constantly be upskilling, but tech, good fortune or misfortune, you have to consistently keep upskilling every 5 years or 2 years. Your table of budget, resource, time, and then when you're upskilling, my view is that you have it's an energy management business. Energy starts with soul, then your EQ, which is like obviously your spouse, kids, and family, etc. And then finally is the IQ piece. So you knock off checklist 1, 2, and then you can get to 3. I used to flip it. So back in the day 2012, I also did the Android course, etc. But I was completely like had a terrible routine. I would go partying and then get up in the morning and try to do assignment. That doesn't simply work. And then expect like great outcomes. That simply doesn't work. And the reason I'm just also sharing this experience is the mindset. Like look at your plans you've laid out, etc. You have a contingency plan. You proactively know you're taking her out, etc. So these are the kind of subtle things, but make a huge impact, right?
Right.
As opposed to completely being reactive. Oh, let me go to sessions. Let me sit for placement. Or if I get a job, it'll be great. So those kind of things don't work.
Yeah, certainly.
Perfect. Yeah. So want to go to the next question. So we finished the pre-course piece, we finished the during course piece, post-course. So talk us a little bit about you know post-course in terms of both pieces. Like any one or two use cases, obviously you can redact the names or the specificity of the project, but the impact within Qualcomm, either with any one of the clientele you mentioned, any use cases that come to mind that your eyes change, right? The way once you're upskilled, the same event the same rows starts looking differently. You're not looking at rows as rows, but you're looking at it as pixels, RGB, and all that. So that one piece. And second part question to that is, as a senior AI leader, what are the good things that leaders do, and what are the sort of top, 1, 2 mistakes people are doing and getting left behind, subconsciously or consciously? Any perspective on leadership and AI there?
Okay. I will answer these questions, may not be in the same order. I may
Okay.
be juggling a bit around, and maybe I will touch a bit
Yeah,
up on the previous question also, because one thing is how much do we give of ourselves, right? While being part of the course. Okay. If I have to be honest here, there are some people who join it only only for the certificate, or some people who bring their titles and roles to the classroom
Yeah.
or even the lab batch.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, that sort of disaster, not only for them, even for the lab batch, because you don't want to be a drag on the lab batch, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody has to work together. At the same time, when you signed up for the course, you agreed to be a student. So you make the most of it by
Yeah.
being a student there. Because even after the course, when some of the people from other organizations, when they discuss with me, right, on what they want to do, maybe they have gone through the complete course or they went through some of the material, but they already have some plans in mind. And sometimes when they do talk, they start with gradient descent and end with gradient descent. Okay. So that's why I think as a student, independent of the and irrespective of the role that we play in our own professional lives, okay, the focus should always be on what we want to do, what we want to learn from there, and how do we give our best there. Because in the end, we don't want to be a drag, or we don't want to be a fool. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bit harsh, but I thought I should just share my actual observation.
Sure.
Okay. And so even during the course or towards the end of it, some of my friends, Valmik and Anshul, we used to discuss, okay, what kind of use cases we can readily apply our
Yeah.
acquired knowledge on. Otherwise, it just goes waste, and you are back to square one or square zero, whatever you call it as, right? So if you want to do it as part of your day-to-day job, depending on the nature of the job, you may not be able to get an immediate use case or
Yeah.
not. Okay. So what is the next best thing you can do? Try to collaborate with the teams that actually work on related use cases. And that's the approach I picked. As I said, I was working on the system level power analysis, right? And I came to know that our AI software team, which I am part of now, at that point of time, the team was trying to evaluate and improve the power efficiency, okay, of the solutions that we generate. So I use that as an opportunity to collaborate with them, learn with them, okay, and provide any kind of support. And that opened the gates for me. I was able to get into the team to play a more predominant role on those activities. And as time passed, now I am responsible for driving even the accelerators, right? That are responsible for the deep learning functionality on these SOCs. So maybe this won't be as dramatic as in some other cases wherein people do course, they attend interviews, and they get what they want. Okay. But in my case, it was more like an organic kind of natural flow, right? Wherein I explored where I can actually contribute, and it opened the gates. And being part of an organization which actually encourages you to explore
Yeah.
certainly helped.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I think, like you said, it's more organic and inorganic in that some people jump, outward looking, like from an organization to some other organization. It could be obviously the role, title, or the remuneration, but it seems like you found it inward, like inside with it. And Qualcomm is like relatively a humongous company. So that itself is like possibly 30, 40 companies combined together. So it makes a lot of sense. And I've not worked on hardware, but I'm presuming that's an exciting field. And I think round about your time or the 5 years leading up to it, it just exploded, right? Performance, inference times, etc. From my limited knowledge, obviously you have, you know, a lot more applied knowledge there right now. Perfect. Thanks for sharing those few use cases, etc.
Of course, I will try to add a bit here, because not many people
Yeah.
are aware of this part of AI. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is this mobile edge inferencing,
Yeah.
okay, which is really active, okay, which has been coming up for quite some time, which is very widely used. Okay. It's just that people, when they look at AI and ML, the courses are related aspects, right? They think about, okay, take a data set, create a model, right? And look at the accuracy, And if it is working fine, yes, you have it. Okay. But what happens after you create a model, right? The deployment, okay, you want wide scale deployment, and especially you have those smartphones. Okay, how do you actually run those models on your mobiles? And when you do training, these are like humongous GPU servers, right? With too many computations cores and liquid cooling mechanism always powered on. And you compare and contrast it with a handheld battery driven mobile form factor device, right? It opens its own kinds of challenges. So the thing is, you get to know what exactly happens under the hood when you're running the model. Okay, and you can see the impact of it, right? You use any camera kind of use case, if you are applying a deep learning algorithm, and you see the impact of it right away. Okay, so that's the interesting aspect of it. And I was totally comfortable, and I was totally into it because I have been in the embedded domain all the while. And I was mostly on the multimedia side, and this looked like a natural extension of what I was already doing, but being able to have some contribution to the domain, right? That I wanted to contribute to. So yeah, I just wanted to let people know that there is this area also in the whole AI ocean.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because I was also, interviewing or getting interviewed by companies in the US, some companies on, I want to say the West Coast, and I saw the job descriptions vastly different from the companies in India. For instance, for an AI engineer, etc. Even in ballpark, similar function, similar role, similar type of company industry. I saw there they needed what they call the full stack AI scientist. So that's pre-processing, and you have lots of elements of computer science there. Again, you need to know your algorithms like quick sort, binary sort, etc. So you have the model building, which is what everybody loves. That's like the batting, but batting doesn't win you World Cups. Like bowling and fielding, which is the more boring, relatively speaking, wins you. And then the last piece is deployment. But a lot of the JDs there are asking for the cloud deployment piece. Very rarely are they asking for edge, and I think that's not yet trickled down to India just yet. Maybe few companies in Bangalore are doing it, but I think that's going to happen. That my view of the future is next 3 years that will slowly happen. Probably it's already reached you because you are more homogenous or geography agnostic, right? Qualcomm's all over the world, so yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, perfect. Let's move on to. So it seems like for you, it's a perfect confluence of your embedded systems and AI, and then back there again. You're not doing computer vision only on software code, etc. You're going all the way in the stack, from software to hardware.
I heavily believe this book, The Alchemist,
Yeah,
Jay, if you have gone through it, right?
yeah,
So and the thing is, once you really start with something and you give it whatever you can,
yeah.
things fall in place, and you will find it closer to where you already are,
Perfect.
right? Eventually. So I believe in that.
You found your gems and diamonds. They were right under you. Maybe this team was right under or above you. Okay, perfect. So yeah, want to know a little bit more about just the AI strategy. So you've had the obviously the good fortune of working for, like I said, several, maybe at least a half a dozen Fortune 500 companies, of course, from junior to through senior rank. And within Qualcomm, you've obviously liaised with so many teams, and each of these teams itself is a huge unit in itself, vertical in itself. What's like I said, so what are the things, some of the things leaders, how are they view? What are some of the things leaders are doing right and not so right? Some points, yeah, because seems like I'm seeing very clear patterns. Obviously, there's data literacy even among organization, and some organizations are going through the roof. Like today, Google plus Apple's GDP market value is higher than Indian GDP. That's 2.8 trillion. So, but I'm assuming most of it is from data, etc. The valuation comes from there, but I'm seeing also lots of other companies that are developing a capability competence. But some leaders are very, very, who are smart, who are smarter than us, but they're lagging a lot behind. What's going on there?
Yeah, so again, whatever views I share may be mostly related to the
Yeah,
influencing side, right? Because that's mostly the area that I have spent most of my time with,
yeah, yeah,
right? So the thing is, it always starts with your single course and what do you say, getting things running, right? That's how it would start in any organization. And it's the industry trend that actually determines, right, how you progress. And the research also adds quite a bit to that. Okay. I mean, you have so many accelerators on which you can run your deep learning models, right? And at some point of time, people thought that, okay, floating point 32-bit, right, is too big. Okay, why not be able to run an integer 8 kind of model on a lean and mean processor like DSP, right? And okay, can I get it working? Naturally, initially you will lose quite some accuracy because of that precision loss and all, right? But again, it's the research that happens, right? Uh, Sometimes in collaboration with industry, sometimes orthogonal to it, which actually bridges this gap, right? And then being able to be in touch with the research progress that is happening, and even better thing would be to collaborate, right, with these R&D kind of institutes, right? And quickly be able to commercialize whatever research is being done, right? And uh, this is one precision kind of thing that I said. And you have so many multiple kinds of accelerators available, right? How can you make the best use of all the accelerators available, right? All these kinds of things, they come as learnings, right? Sometimes as part of execution alone, and sometimes it's the research that actually helps you understand, yes, these are the avenues where you have to focus on, or you have already been focusing on, but this is the direction you need to go into, right? All these things come together, and whenever you are in line, right, and walking hand in hand with research, and both supporting each other, right, that's when you know that you are in the right direction. And of course, you start with small processor course and all, and then you from edge, and from the other side you have the server world, right? And uh, are they totally orthogonal to each other, right? And what kind of cross learning can happen, and what kind of convergence can happen, right? These kind of uh, things are related to actually having the right vision. Once the leadership has the right vision, right, and you are ensuring that you are in line with where the research is heading, and where the okay, with the use cases are going to expand 5 to 10 years from now, right? If you are able to visualize, that's where the leadership has been doing really well, because that translates into the roadmaps and the execution, right, for any organization. And you have these industry level AI benchmarks also, for example, that actually help you understand uh, where and how one particular vendor solution is positioned versus the other, right? What kind of architectures are evolving, and what kind of further avenues are there for further optimizations, right? In summary, I would say the research, your own vision,
Yeah.
right, on being able to amalgamate multiple domains, right? Not even multiple use cases, multiple domains. And the industry benchmarks also, they also help you progress further, evaluate, compare, contrast. All these things, they do help you. Uh, Personally, I haven't seen much scope, right, in any bad bets, okay, or bad decisions within the inferencing world, right, that I have spent most of my time with so far. But again, maybe I have to go back to what I said some time ago. When when you are coming up with an initiative within your team, right, big or small, and you are going to set aside some bandwidth of your team on that idea, but you yourself don't have enough required knowledge to make the right decision, then in the end, that's where you will end up wasting time, more than time, the motivation levels, right, and energies of yourself and the team. Okay, uh, that's where I think it typically happens or happened that I have seen. Okay, and because you keep seeing, right, those bubbling projects which come up and then they die down. Okay, that's
True.
mainly because not having the complete vision, or not having the complete required knowledge, or both.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's a splendid answer, and definitely I think it's curt but and indelicate, but that's required because there's not much success rate in many of the proof of concepts, and many have been casualties. So the vision is so important. I've realized like goal setting, and not many people even expend time to set that goal. Like goal setting is the most important. Are you traveling to Delhi or are you traveling to Mumbai? First you have to be clear about that, and what does Delhi look like, what does Mumbai look like, and accordingly go backwards and regress backwards, right? Perfect.
Right. And another problem is, if you believe you are the only one traveling to Mumbai or Delhi, right, and you are complete unaware of
Yeah,
what others are doing, right, who are in the same path,
that's true.
that's also a problem.
Yeah, being cognizant of industry yeah, like you said, R&D, the word, most companies don't even spend on R&D even though they have like fat chunk of change of fat profits. I don't know why they're afraid of rejection, I guess, afraid of experimenting, right? Perfect. Which is a nice segue to the next question, which is downstream, lower order, freshers or relatively youngsters. What are the CVs or resumes? I know you told me you go to campus hiring and you recruit all you have at least you're amidst probably 50s or hundreds or thousands of these guys and women accordingly. What's going right with them and what's more importantly going wrong with them? Because I feel like there needs to be a surgical strike in education. That's my view. And a fresher is like paradoxically they have a sense of entitlement. Oh, I'm a fresher, so I don't know anything. Like, come on, like this is like a cook. We hire a cook, and the cook has to know at least something, like some omelette or some rice. Nothing. No, I'm a cook. I'm a fresher cook. I don't know anything. And it's also disconcerting because even I was there like 10, 11 years ago when I graduated from college. I had that sense of entitlement and ignorance, which is bizarre. You want to be entitled if you have something. You're entitled because you don't have anything, and you expect industry to train you and pay you. So that's one pain point I've seen. Maybe you can expand on that. You've seen a lot more campus hires, etc. Specifically from AI. What and obviously the next part of the question is what would you want to see? Some original projects, fundamentals. How do you assess it? What are the questions you ask in interviews, etc. So on and so forth.
Even on this question, I would love to be a bit honest. So
Yeah,
it may sound a bit
please
harsh again,
go for it.
but yeah, I really intend to help with the right answer here.
Yeah,
So when you mentioned about entitlement, right, that sense of entitlement,
yeah,
you brought up a very good point.
yeah,
Okay, there is also another dimension to it. The sense of entitlement also comes from the campus they are associated with.
yeah.
Okay, sometimes you do come across students. Okay, I am part of this campus. Okay, I have done my hard work to get into this campus. So
Yeah.
yeah, now anybody should be lucky to get me. Okay, so may not be a huge number, but you do come across such people as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and sometimes the students that get into these colleges, right, in these right campuses, they have really good bookish knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, you ask something beyond, right, and just to see how they think, uh, you expect them to at least apply their thinking, right, and not give up. Okay, so even if you're taking some interview, right, yourself, you ask somebody about bias, some or about variance or the trade-off between them, right, the answers come straight from the textbook. Okay, but if you ask something tricky like, okay, I gave you infinite amounts of computation power, I gave you infinite sets of data. Okay, do you still have to live with that trade-off? Okay, how they think about it, right? That's what you look for. Okay, uh, that's what distinguishes one student from the other. Okay, and another thing is people who come with CVs in this AI domain, they are good at TensorFlow kind of framework or Cafe, PyTorch also these days, and a bit of Python. But you ask them to write one simple program in C++, right, using some nice algorithm or data structures. Um, some of them struggle, okay? And it really pains you because those are the fundamentals. Okay, it's not that you are a lateral entry, right? Lateral hire who has gone through these academics maybe a decade ago, and so you forgot about it. Uh, this is something that really disappoints. Okay, and depending on the industry or the kind of company that you want to get into, your preparation should be different. Okay, you are going into a fintech company or something which is totally into data science, you have to prepare for that. Okay, uh, but you prepare for that and try to get into an organization like ours, right, which is into ML inferencing. All right, there you need to have the right eye for, okay, what kind of accelerators are there, at least some understanding and remembering the OS concepts, right? And if your bachelor's was from ECE, some understanding of, okay, how some PLLs would work, those kind of things, right? And at least some C++ decent programming, right? I actually am involved in almost every campus hiring for our team in India because uh, I love talking to students. Okay, so I generally make my time to be able to
Yeah.
be part of these drives, and this is one thing that I have been observing over the past few years. And if I may add, sometimes students get carried away by the buzz. Okay, few years ago it used to be Android. Okay, and 5 years ago when I used to visit the campuses, of course then it was in person, almost every student was talking about IoT. Okay, and for the past 3 years or so, students are carried away by AI/ML. Yes, but don't forget your basics. Okay, and at the same time, don't go with your bookish knowledge. You ask anybody about confusion matrix, everything, they will, or even ask them to write a GD equation, they will write it. Okay, but what exactly you understood out of it, that's what actually differentiates you from the other. And when you go to campuses like these IITs and all, right, almost see anything beyond 8 or 8.5, right, it's all the same. You cannot do much distinction. Then it's your own enthusiasm, right? How much depth you have acquired in the project that your professor has given to you. Naturally you wouldn't work on it alone, right? How many you would have worked with 2 or 3 more students, right, your own batchmates. What exactly was the extra effort you put to understand what is the end use case, what exactly is the design, what is the implementation, how your own role or contribution is fitting into the complete use case implementation, right? These kind of things actually impress someone who is interviewing you, right? Because they know that you have that zeal to explore, to understand better, and even to improve, right, if possible. And another thing is this programming challenges, right? And being on the code chefs, hacker ranks, and that actually gives the recruiter the confidence that, okay, this person is from CS and is putting a constant effort, right, to improve his or her programming skills, right? The algorithmic analytical skills, all these things are required because you may be creating a model, but when you are deploying it, all these things come together, right? So these things and paper presentations and all, they also add. Okay, and obviously all these are at the top. Your base should be strong. right? So be really good with your fundamentals. Don't go just by right by hurting them. Uh, Understand, right? Understand the concept and generate your own thinking of those concepts, and be able to present your own thoughts when some. I mean, it's not like it. We want to give a tricky question. It's more like when you hit that challenge in your execution, right? How do you think about it, right? And how prepared are you
Yeah.
with respect to your own academic skills to handle that? Okay, maybe a lengthy answer, but
No, no.
this actually summarizes
Yeah.
all the observations and all the expectations that a recruiter generally has, especially from the fresh grads.
Yeah, I like long answers. I like actually long write-ups. So, like I said earlier in the interview, I'm deliberately going on a tangent. So when I do my ad copies on Facebook or on, let's say, Google, etc., I write really long. The reason why I write really long ads is it's a self-selecting mechanism, because I understood that people who read smaller bits, or it's like, on being on Instagram, it's all junk food, junk this thing. People who read long, etc. I'm preceding, and I'm attracting that kind of crowd, right? So I think the length is actually a good indicator of quality, right? And we want the input to be strong in an organization that's obviously lasted, like I would assume, obviously 3-4 decades, whose stock earnings, etc. are high. If the input is strong, then the output will be strong, right? So I go extra length also to hire, to build that Jedi team. And I'm seeing that, yeah, fundamentals, even including all of us, and I'm telling this as much to the audience, to myself, to be grounded, to be like, in some ways you are very, very humble, and but also the key on the fundamentals, systems level thinking is just difficult. I mean, just doing push-ups, 10 push-ups every day for 365 days itself is very difficult. Like, and many people get lost all the shiny objects. Life happens, etc. And coming back to, I think you've also, in a way, seeded what you are looking for, at least in Qualcomm ML team. You need the C++ piece, etc. I would assume even the computer vision, you don't team, maybe that's adjacent to you, also needs that skill. I've not seen that JD a lot, because most of the other companies or roles are typically software only. So it's actually a good self-selecting mechanism, because even if one person is watching, like, even if thousands of millions are watching, but there'll be that one or two people who are very keen on this role, and they might get inspired. So my view is always on that. It's not even Pareto, it's Pareto. So it's 96-4 rule, 4%.
Yeah, I also apply it, the
Yeah,
second level of
yeah,
80-20.
yeah,
And see, when you give a lengthy answer, people will apply the same rule, and hopefully they grasp what they want,
yeah.
right?
That's
So I'm okay with that.
perfect. Yeah. So which is a segue to the last question that we have. What's next for you? Like, as in, I'm sure you're working on something interesting. If you can just give us like a small teaser, so that you can entice some, maybe hopefully future members of your team. And B, how are you looking at the future, the next 3 to 5 years, next 1,000 days, in terms of AI, etc.? What trends are you following? What are you definitely not betting on, pertaining to the AI realm? Like, is it general AI, or I'm not too sure about actually the embedded system. Sorry, that's my puppy. So talk us about the future, the way Pradeep's looking, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So in summary, I would say that future holds a lot, mainly because there are so many avenues and challenges in actually making things work the most efficient way. Even in right, you take any of these vendors, right, who are providing their solutions for edge inferencing. The thing is, uh, for example, all the while, even if you look at the industry benchmarks, they have been predominantly focusing on performance. Okay. But slowly that thought process of power efficiency is actually coming in. Okay. So how do you actually make the kill still, okay, but with less energy consumed, right? That's of course, that has always been one focus area for all the vendors that are providing these solutions. But once the industry benchmarks also start looking in this direction, right? It actually creates that sense of purpose for areas, for action in these kind of areas. And it's uh, I mean, a new course of new kinds of accelerators, new hybrid and heterogeneous kind of accelerators coming in, right? To because see, these things like data level, right, instruction level, thread level, these kind of parallelisms, every vendor actually tries to achieve, right, to the extent possible. How do you maximize all of this with the right design of your course? And if you actually look at it, this is not specific to inferencing domain alone, or the mobile edge inferencing domain alone. There is always this problem of right, whether you are being compute bound, or you are being IO bound, or the memory bound, right? So is it because your horse is not running faster, or your horse is running faster but it's not getting right, the right track, right? You don't have enough bandwidth because all these operations are heavily memory intensive, right? And of course research has been going on for the past few years, especially in US and other universities, on how you can make maximum utilization of data reuse kind of approaches, right, and thereby improve even further efficiency, right? And how do you scale these accelerators to be able to handle not only the mobile kind of use case load, okay, it should be able to even be part of the training activity, right? Make the course generic and scalable so that they are applicable across multiple domains, right, and multiple areas and multiple use cases. So scalability, power efficiency, right, while keeping performance right at top, and continued exploration of data reuse and right, all these kind of related approaches, heterogeneous computing, all these things, right? These are the areas where right, all of us see people spending a lot of their time and effort on, right? And right, in future towards the end, I mean, a few years down the lane, you may actually see a solution which is actually applicable to multiple domains, right, multiple areas, and that means you have achieved a good amount of scalability for whatever solutions you have been using so far.
Oh, perfect. Honestly, many of those things I don't know, so I really didn't get that piece. But seems like the plate is full in terms of what a lot of the inferencing piece of the team or your competitors, etc., are doing, and you're keeping a close track. Seems very exciting. I was also watching one of Zoho's interviews, and this is obviously completely different, but they apparently have an R&D team that does a lot of hardware. And it was interesting to me because so Sridhar Mem was also from IIT Madras, and then he was telling me something, was telling in the interview something very interesting. He's like, we've written good software, and it can only work as fast as possible, including CRM or mails, etc. You have to go full stack. You have to go deeper in the hardware, and then they have 44 products. Obviously, the revenue is in big nine figures. So it's interesting to see that software companies are also getting into hardware. Of course, this is completely not just orthogonal; it's a completely different set. But I see some very interesting activity there. Perfect.
That's notable, Jay, because the moment you talk about data parallelism, right, people used to talk about vector kind of programming,
Yeah.
right? Now it's no more two-dimensional. So how do you actually scale your hardware to be able to
Yeah.
still do this efficiently? All these things lead up to that.
Yeah, perfect. Makes sense. And the mobile phones continuing to increase, like that, it's exploding. It's not stopping. That market is like just going and going. I see my mom, glued to like YouTube forever, and I see that. Oh my god, no wonder like the huge companies like Oppo, Redmi, etc. just flooded the market. And I think there's a significant amount of opportunity hence the second derivative, which is like inferencing, faster photos, faster apps, etc. The whole, it's going to go deeper in the inception layer all across. Yeah, makes sense. Perfect. Thank you so much for coming. I know you're really busy. You have a huge team, etc. But I really, really appreciate your time. Thanks once again for coming.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for this opportunity, and it's really great talking to you. Especially we spoke to each other long ago, so good to be in touch with you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.